All right, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jordan Hardgrave. Today we're going to be reading an email from somebody who had a severe anxiety attack during her daughter's school play. I'm going to be responding to this in real time. I've just seen the first part of this email, and I hope that by reading this, it will give you some tips for recovery, but also help spread some awareness that these things happen to regular, everyday, ordinary people. You may think that you're going crazy. You may think that you're alone and that nobody else goes through this, but I promise you, you would be shocked if you knew how many people, whether it's at the gym or a restaurant or driving or at church or on Christmas morning or at a birthday party, are secretly dealing with severe anxiety and maybe even panic attacks. And you just see the person, kind of smile awkwardly and walk out of the room. You don't know what's going on. They could have literally been having a panic attack. Happens so much more often than you think. So let's go and get to it. Dear Jordan, last Thursday was supposed to be one of those proud parent moments. My daughter had her first school play and she'd been practicing her line for weeks. So I have three daughters, and my daughter is actually, uh, I say learning how to play the piano. She played like kind of a condensed version, I'm pretty sure, of Mozart at her last talent show. And I was just like, that's my girl. Like, I just was so extremely proud of her. And so this is already hitting home because I have daughters of my own. And I could imagine how devastating this would be if you had a panic attack. She was so excited. I kept telling myself I'd be there, really there, cheering her on, but I wasn't, not really. It all started the moment the lights went down. At first, it was just a small feeling like something pressing against my chest. I thought, okay, just focus. It's your daughter on stage. But then it started to build. My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure people around me could hear it. I think of, let me know in the comments below, is it Edgar Allan Poe? Okay, it's going to drive me nuts. Hearing heartbeat through floor. I remember whenever I was in high school, yeah, the telltale heart. And there's this guy that ends up hearing this person's heartbeat through the floor. Yeah, that's a crazy story. I remember that actually. Wow, I haven't thought about that since high school. Thanks, Coach Metter, for letting us read that story. He was an amazing English teacher. Anyway, with that being said, my heart was pounding so hard I was sure people around me could hear it. It felt like the walls were closing in and I just couldn't get out of my own head. So the very first thing that I'll tell you, and this is just to encourage people, that things are not as they seem as far as social anxiety in general. People are focused on themselves, right? So all the people at that play, they were focused on their own kids. I mean, if you start like, constantly moving around, or you're like, hunched over something, yeah, maybe they notice that. But I think a lot of what causes social anxiety to build is this belief that everybody's watching every move that you're making. And it's just not true most of the time. Most of the time, people are focused on their own phone, their own situation. If you're at a restaurant, they're focused on, eating their meal. And so even though it's not true that everybody's looking at you, because your brain tells you that everybody's looking on you or looking at you, it makes you even more stressed out, and it can really start to build up the stress and lead to panic. So one thing that you can remind yourself is like, hey, people are focused on themselves, right? As much as my mind is telling me that everybody's focused on me, it's just not true. People are literally just focused on themselves. So let's get back to the story. You said, and I just couldn't get out of my own head. I really tried to just watch her, but my brain wouldn't let me. Man, it was like I wasn't even there anymore. My husband was right beside me, and I thought about grabbing his hand, maybe even telling him I needed to get out. But then I thought of everyone around us, the other parents, the teachers, and worst of all, my daughter. This is hard to read. Oh my goodness. But thank you so much for sending this to me, and I already know that people are probably relating with this. Comment below if you've gone through something similar to this so people can know just how common that it is. The idea of making a scene terrified me more than anything, so I stayed put, feeling like I was falling apart. And I don't know what's about to happen in this story, but a lot of times if you feel trapped and like you can't escape and the anxiety is building, 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 you very well may enter a trauma state, which is where symptoms like depersonalization, realization can kick in. Time can feel distorted, memory can get thrown off, people can feel like strangers. Um, because it's part of the freeze response, right? So, the freeze response happens whenever you can't fight or flee. That's the kind of the last ditch effort to survive in mammals is if we can't fight the lion or flee from the lion, there's one defense mechanism that is sometimes successful, which is playing dead in hopes that the predator loses interest and walks away. But just in case the predator doesn't lose interest and walks away, your mind or your brain rather will start to dissociate you or make you feel separated from your body, which is depersonalization, and also from the material world, which is derealization. Also, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex shuts down. That's the timekeeper. You're going to basically feel like time is distorted. It'll feel like there's no end to your suffering. All kinds of really, really difficult things start happening. Our memory starts registering as implicit procedural memory instead of explicit narrative-based memory. So if you recall that event in the future, you may just remember bits and pieces or nothing at all. Once you hit a trauma state, things get really, really, really messy. You said, I did everything I could, or I did everything I could think of to try to calm down. I counted backwards from 100, focused on my breath, even dug my nails into the palm until it hurt. It kept me in my seat, but I was only half there. I heard her voice on stage, but it felt like a million miles away, like I was missing everything that mattered. So, becoming aware of your breath is actually quite good. That's allowing you to be aware of what's called interoception, the experience of the embodied self. I would have just added, start to relax your body, because the more that you increase relaxation in the body, the more that you decrease stress. Another thing that you could have done is 4-7-8 breathing. You inhale for 4 seconds. Make sure to keep your shoulders still because you don't want to breathe through your chest. Your whole core is going to go out on the inhale. And then hold your breath for 7 seconds because that's going to slow your heart rate down. And then exhale for 8 seconds through the mouth and let your belly and chest go down, right? That could have been something that you could have done just to kind of calm your nervous system a little bit. But that's what you want to do in those situations. So is come into your body, which becoming aware of your breathing was headed in the right direction, but it sounds like people have not taught you how to self-regulate, and so you didn't really have anything to do beyond that. But it was headed in the right direction. As far as counting in your head, that's, technically called somatic dissociation. So somatic means body, dissociation means to separate. And so sometimes by counting in your head, you can basically escape the fight or flight response that's happening in your body, and it may temporarily calm you down. But if you don't directly release the tension and adrenaline from the body, that's not really dealing with the root. So anyway, with that being said, there's some tips for you and anybody else that may find themselves in this situation. When the play ended, everyone clapped, and I just sat there. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't even do that. Oh, it felt just like I'd failed her, that I missed a moment I'd never get back. And after, when she looked at me with those bright eyes, so happy and proud, I forced a smile and told her, "You were amazing, sweetheart." And she really was. But I felt like a fraud sitting there with my heart still racing, knowing I hadn't been fully present. It just sucks. It sucks how anxiety takes these good moments and just ruins them. How I can't just be there, can't just be normal. I've tried therapy, medication, breathing exercises, everything, and sometimes they work, but oftentimes, like that night, it feels like none of it matters. Like anxiety is always going to win, and I'll keep missing these important moments, and I can't stop thinking, how many more am I going to lose like this? Heartbreaker. That is very difficult to read, and I will tell you, I can't tell you how many people that I have gotten to speak with that were like, missing out on those precious moments in life with my family is the most gut-wrenching part of the symptoms, because that's really what life is all about. To me, my life's fulfillment is found in 3 ways. Well, maybe 4, okay? Number 1, God, my relationship with God. Number 2, my family. Spending in the present moment time with my wife and kids is everything to me. Like I live and breathe for those moments. And then the third thing is helping other people. I find a great sense of fulfillment in helping people who are going through this recovery path. And the last thing is personal development. I really, really like just working on increasing my knowledge and being as healthy as I can be and things like that. Those are pretty much the four things that I live for. And I didn't have any of that, whenever I was going through severe anxiety for over 15 years. I went through severe depersonalization realization for 2 years, constantly, 5 years off and on. There was one point where I was having 20 panic attacks a day, extreme existential obsession rumination, spent, gosh, well over a decade with health anxiety, severe health anxiety, obsessed with my heartbeat and my breathing and irrational fears. I was always worried about everything. I was constantly assuming that every worst case scenario was going to happen. And I wasn't ever present. I was always up here and I would play video games all the time, or I was in my head thinking about existence or my health or people's opinions or the past or the future. I was never present. And that's because I couldn't be safely embodied. In order to be present, we need you to be safely embodied. And so that's a big thing that I do with my clients is I teach them how to get back into their body. That's called interoception, the experience of the embodied self. And then I teach them how to start to release that tension, adrenaline, and emotion from the body. That's at least one of the major things that we do. So anyway, if you'd like more information about what that process looks like and what recovery looks like, I've created a free masterclass for you. It's called the 5 Shifts to Heal from Anxiety and Depersonalization Realization. There's a link below. Check that out. There's also a link if you'd like to apply to work with me and my team to help you become symptom free. We would love to take a look at your situation and see if we could help. And I hope that anybody who watched this just walks away knowing that you're not alone in this and you're not going crazy. These symptoms happen to more people than you could ever imagine. And it's fixable. I am now symptom free. I've been spending the last 6 years helping people become symptom free. I tell people I would not continue to do this unless it was working. It's just too much. It's just so much time and effort and patience. And I have to spend so much time in self-care and self-regulation to make sure that I'm not overwhelmed by this. But it's worth it because people keep getting out of this. And it doesn't matter how long it's been, your nervous system can rewire. Okay, there is hope. Click subscribe if this encouraged you. You want to hear more videos like this. Click like, comment something, and you guys have an awesome day. Take care.